Good morning, Storytime friends. It's Hannah with the Barkman Branch again, and today I am so excited to read with you all. Today we're going to read about something magical, a kind of magic creature that fulfills wishes, collects teeth. What could we read about today? What could it be? That's right, Storytime friends. We're reading about all of my wonderful flying friends behind me, fairies. Fairies are one of my favorite magical animals because they can do all kinds of cool things. So I love reading stories about fairies. And here behind me, we have lots of fairy friends that are going to listen to the stories with us today. And they have all different kinds of clothes and colors on. It looks like this friend here is a snow fairy. I think she controls the snow, and she probably likes winter. I also have a friend down here, and it looks like she controls all kinds of beautiful growing things, all kinds of green things, maybe like trees. My beautiful friend down here, she's wearing yellow, so I bet she controls things like stardust and sun and all kinds of cool things. And my friend up here, it looks like she has a rose on, so I bet she is a flower fairy. So all kinds of different fairies have all different kinds of magic in stories, and one of the ones you might have heard about is the Tooth Fairy. We're going to read more about the Tooth Fairy in just a minute, but before we do, let's stand up and get our sillies out, get all our wiggles out with our song, and let's get ready for a story, okay? So let's all stand up, and if you're ready for a story, clap your hands. If you're ready for a story, clap your hands. If you're ready for a story, if you're ready for a story, if you're ready for a story, clap your hands. If you're ready for a story, stomp your feet. If you're ready for a story, stomp your feet. If you're ready for a story, if you're ready for a story, if you're ready for a story, stomp your feet. If you're ready for a story, turn around. If you're ready for a story, turn around. If you're ready for a story, if you're ready for a story, if you're ready for a story, turn around. If you're ready for a story, take a seat. If you're ready for a story, take a seat. If you're ready for a story, if you're ready for a story, if you're ready for a story, take a seat. Okay, Storytime friends. I saw you getting all your wiggles out, spinning around, stomping your feet. You're getting really good at that song. We've been practicing it for quite a while, and you are very good at it now. So, now that we are all settled and ready for our first story, like I mentioned, we're going to read about a very famous fairy, and I bet you've heard of this one, the Tooth Fairy. Have you heard of the Tooth Fairy before? If you haven't, the Tooth Fairy is really cool. When you lose your baby teeth, you can put them under your pillow, and then she brings you money and collects your teeth. So let's read about how to trick the Tooth Fairy. And this is by Erin Danielle Russell, and it's illustrated by Jennifer Hanson Rowley. And this is read with permission from Simon & Schuster. How to trick the Tooth Fairy. Can you think of any ways to trick the Tooth Fairy? Ooh, those are some good ones I'm hearing. Yeah, maybe you could trick the Tooth Fairy by, instead of putting a tooth under your pillow, you put something that's not a tooth and see if she gives you money anyway. Well, let's find out how our main character tricks the Tooth Fairy, shall we? Kaylee loved to pull pranks. Here's Kaylee. She's a prank princess in training. Her eyes have a twinkle of mischief. Her favorite holiday is April Fool's. She's cute as a button, sharp as a tack, and she has comfy shoes down here for creeping. She pulled pranks every day, every night, and even on holidays. She was always looking for her next unsuspecting victim. What is Kaylee doing here? That's right, she has replaced the delicious frosting of those sandwich cookies with toothpaste instead. Ugh. But was Kaylee the princess of pranks? What do you think? Was Kaylee the princess of pranks? No, that would be this little trickster. The Tooth Fairy. She's the ruling prank princess. She has a magical tooth grabber, a smirky smile, fairy wings for a quick getaway, and more tricks in her bag than teeth. But she had no clue whom she was about to meet. Who do you think the Tooth Fairy is going to meet? That's right. I think Kaylee and the Tooth Fairy are going to meet two tricksters in the same room. Shh. Here she comes through Kaylee's window. The Tooth Fairy was expecting to find something small, smooth, and white. What would be small, smooth, and white? Teeth. Yes, the Tooth Fairy was expecting to find a tooth. Not green with webbed feet. Eek! What did the Tooth Fairy find instead? She found a frog. Now, if you prank the Tooth Fairy with a fake frog, you'll get real frogs. Oh no! Game on! Had Kaylee finally met her mischief-making match? She offered the Tooth Fairy a slice of pie. I'm so sorry. And if you know anything about fairies, you know they love sweets. Is that a sweet pie? I see something down here. That might not be so sweet. The Tooth Fairy dug into her dessert. Suddenly, her mouth was on fire. She had hot sauce in that pie, didn't she? Ugh. Spicy pie is not so good. Now, if you prank the Tooth Fairy with prankster pie, she'll top it with gobs of gooey ice cream. All different colors of ice cream all over Kaylee's kitchen. What colors of ice cream do you see here? I see green on Kaylee. There's some orange and white flying across the page. Oh my goodness. I usually like ice cream, but not when it's thrown all over me. Kaylee was a mess. Pass the sprayer, please. But once the sprayer was in her hands, Kaylee turned it on the Tooth Fairy. Whoosh! Ah! Oh no, she got the Tooth Fairy wet instead of cleaning up the ice cream on her. Now, if you prank the Tooth Fairy with a splash of water, she'll make, what do you think the Tooth Fairy will make? I don't know. She'll make rain. Cats and dogs. Yikes! Oh no! Now it's raining cats and dogs in Kaylee's kitchen. What a mess. Storm scared Kaylee. She ran and hid behind a closet door. The Tooth Fairy wanted to outprank Kaylee, but frightening her wasn't fun at all. Come out, wherever you are. Kaylee sprang out of hiding, surprising the Tooth Fairy with a burst of bubblegum. Gotcha! Splat! Oops! My wand! Oh no! Kaylee trapped the Tooth Fairy with the bubblegum, but what happened to the Tooth Fairy's wand? Do you see it down here? Oh no, you're right! The Tooth Fairy's wand broke. And if you know anything about tooth fairies, you know a broken wand means topsy-turvy tooth fairy trouble. Oh no, her broken wand is doing all kinds of magic that she doesn't want it to. What's happening? You're right. There's all kinds of tornadoes and lightning. Things are flying all over the place, breaking. How do Kaylee and the Tooth Fairy feel about this? That's right. I think they're scared. I don't think they're having so much fun now. Kaylee and the Tooth Fairy may have been soaked and scared and stunned. But luckily, Kaylee had one more trick up her pajama sleeve. Quick, hand me the sprayer. This bubble gum fixed my wand. And so did the Tooth Fairy. Bye-bye, little fur balls. And together they cleaned up their mess. Instead of pranking each other, they're working together, aren't they? Now, if you know anything about pranksters and fairies, you know there's room for lots of fairy dust cookies. And there's her wand all fixed up with bubble gum. There's room for lots of fairy dust cookies, 2 prank princesses, and 1 new friendship. I think my tooth is loose. And what are the Tooth Fairy and Kaylee about to do? They're about to prank other people with water balloons, aren't they? And that is how to trick the Tooth Fairy. It looks like these 2 pranksters couldn't outprank each other, but I'm glad they ended up working together and becoming friends instead. I would love to have a fairy as a friend, wouldn't you? I think that would be so much fun. Sometimes you can dress up as fairies if you want to for Halloween, and that's really fun to pretend to be a fairy as well as pretending to have fairies for friends. And if you really want to pretend to be a fairy, fairies need magic, right? Now, you may think this finger here is an ordinary finger, but it's actually my magic finger while I'm a fairy. I'm going to show you a really cool activity so you can pretend to be a fairy with your magic finger. Are you ready? I'll do it once and then you do it with me, okay? And this activity makes a lot of magic, and it also is a good reminder for when to calm down and settle down for our next story. So we have a magic finger in the air, magic finger in my hair, magic finger on my hips, magic finger on my lips. Shh, the magic finger makes us quiet. It spins in the air, it spins in our hair, it lands on our hip, and it makes us quiet. Do you want to try being a fairy with me with a magic finger? Let's do it together, okay? Magic finger in the air. Magic finger in my hair. Good twirling. Magic finger on my hips. Magic finger on my lips. Shh. Good job, fairy friends. That was a wonderful magic finger. And now let's read our last story about fairies, shall we? This fairy is also a bit of a prankster. Are you seeing a common thing here? A lot of fairies are pranksters, aren't they? But they have good hearts. And this book about this fairy is called The Nicest, Naughtiest Fairy. And this book is written and illustrated by Nick Ward. Oh, good, thought the naughtiest fairy ever, as a fat little envelope popped through her mailbox. Perhaps someone has sent me a present. But it wasn't a present. It was a letter from all of her neighbors. And this is what it said. Dear Naughty Fairy, stop being so naughty. We've had enough of this being turned into toads and trolls and wobbly jellies. If you don't stop your naughty tricks, we will drum you out of town. Lots of love from your friends, Giant, Big Bad Wolf, the Butcher, the Baker, the Boiled Sweet Maker, the Three Little Pigs, and the Lard Mayor. Oh no. Oops, thought the naughtiest ever fairy. She didn't enjoy being drummed out of town, so she decided to be a well-behaved little fairy, starting right away. How could this naughty fairy be a good fairy? How could she be well-behaved? Yeah, good answer, Storytime friends. Maybe she could help her neighbors. Yeah, maybe she could make some yummy food and share with people. Maybe she could play nicely, right? Well, let's see what our little fairy chooses to do. The very noisy giant was busy crashing around, spring cleaning his castle, when the well-behaved naughty fairy arrived. I can help you with that, she shouted above the noise. No, cried the noisy giant. I know your naughty tricks. Don't worry, I'm a well-behaved naughty fairy. She smiled sweetly and waved her magic wand. But although the naughty fairy tried to be good, her magic was determined to be especially naughty, and almost at once things started to go wrong. Kazam! Paintbrushes whizzed through the air, sloshing paint over the walls, the windows, and the giant as well. The vacuum sucked up the trash, the rugs, and just about everything else. Soon it was so full, it exploded in a cloud of dust. Sorry, said the good naughty fairy, and quickly flew off to help somebody else. The big bad wolf was trying to huff and puff a house down. Oh, please let me help, volunteered the good naughty fairy, and summoned up a wind so strong it blew the wolf's clothes right off and sent the house spinning across the valley and far out to sea. Help! Shouted the three little pigs who were still in the house. Don't worry, I'm coming, cried the naughty fairy. But on the way, she met someone else who needed her help. The boiled candy maker lived at the top of a steep hill, and he was mixing a huge pot of sweet-smelling candy when the naughty fairy passed by. Don't interrupt me now, puffed the candy man. I have to finish all the candy for the mayor's very important procession. Oh, let me help, cried the well-behaved naughty fairy. And before the candy maker could shout, no, she had waved her magic wand. Do you think the nice naughty fairy is going to be able to help the candy maker? I don't know. Her help hasn't been very helpful yet, has it? Kazam! The pot began to rattle and shake, and whoosh, the gooey mixture erupted out of the pot, spilling across the floor. Stop it! Cried the candy maker as the sticky mess bubbled out of the door and down the hill. But the well-behaved naughty fairy had already gone. All the way down the hill, townsfolk were getting stuck in the mucky mess. The mayor's important procession had been brought to a standstill, up to their knees in toffee. I should have known it was you, yelled the mayor, shaking his fist as the naughty fairy flew by. Soon the naughty fairy came upon the bold and roaring lion, who was king of the jungle. He was having a royal nap. "Ah, he's sleeping like a baby," said the helpful fairy. "I'll just make him a little more comfortable." She waved her magic wand and kazam! The mighty king of the jungle awoke to find himself dressed in a baby's bonnet and diaper, rocking in a crib. "How embarrassing!" he roared. "Just you wait." But by now, the naughty fairy had flown out to sea to help the three little pigs, whose house was still bobbing about on the waves. "Fairy to the rescue!" she cried, waving her magic wand. Kazam! A huge and angry whale leapt out of the water and gobbled up the pigs and their house in one mouthful. Oh no! Up through the clouds it swam, turning and somersaulting and emitting polite little burps. A house is a substantial meal, after all, even for an enormous whale. "Come back!" called the naughty good fairy, waving her magic wand. Ka-splash! The whale belly flopped into the village pond. "Oof!" gasped the whale as the little pig's house shot out of his mouth. "Yippee!" Pond water and pond life rained down on the town. Ka-splosh! Miss Munchet, the school teacher, was covered in slime and weeds and tadpoles. The baker's magnificent cake for the mayor's procession was drenched in pond water, and the last of the fiery dragon's fiery breath was snuffed out in the downpour. "This is one of the naughty fairy's tricks," they sputtered. "Oh no!" cried the well-behaved naughty fairy, desperately waving her magic wand as it rained frogs and salamanders. But pop! Her naughty magic turned one of the frogs into her new naughty friend, who was delighted to see the mess the naughtiest fairy ever had made. All the townspeople marched up to the well-behaved naughty fairy. What a state! They were covered in slime and toffee and duckweed. The naughty fairy couldn't help but giggle. "Are you responsible for this mess?" demanded the mayor. "It's not my fault," complained the well-behaved naughty fairy. "I've been good, but my magic was naughty." "Clean this mess up," ordered Miss Munchet. "And no magic, or I'll turn you into a sausage," added the naughty new friend. Ignoring the naughty new friend, the well-behaved naughty fairy waved her magic wand to start the big cleanup. But, oh no, do you think the fairy's magic is going to clean things up? I don't think so. She waved her magic wand, but kapow! Wow. Hmm, that's not fair, grumbled the naughtiest ever sausage as she started the long task of mopping up. In the future, I'm going to stay naughty. It's safer. Let me see if there's another picture at the end. There she is, asking, "Are you naughty too?" Oh no. Well, it was really hard for the naughty fairy, wasn't it? She tried to be nice, but what happened? Her magic was still naughty. So she put rainwater on people. She spilled candy everywhere. She put a wolf into a baby's bonnet. And then she got turned into a sausage by her naughty self, didn't she? Oh, well, unlike the naughty fairy, we all have our own kind of magic, even if we aren't really fairies and even if magic isn't real. And our magic is nice. So we always have the chance to choose to be nice instead of naughty and to take care of our friends, don't we? Well, I sure hope the naughty fairy can find out how to make her magic nice. But for now, she's just a sausage having to clean things up. Okay, Storytime friends, thanks for reading with me today about our wonderful magical friends, fairies. I really like fairies, and I hope you had fun learning about all the shenanigans and things that they get into. Let me show you our craft for this week. So here we have a beautiful craft of a fairy in a jar, and look at that. You can make the fairy fly around in the jar. So if you want to make your own flying fairy in a jar, decorate their beautiful wings and their clothing, and then put them into this jar, you can do that for our craft this week, okay? So if you want that, just come to the Barkman Branch Library and ask for the Flying Fairy in a Jar kit to go, and we will get it to you, okay? Okay, well, be good, unlike those naughty fairies this week, and I'll see you next week when we read about foxes. Have a great week, Storytime friends. I'll see you soon.